And now let's hope Countess Lix can come next. Yeah, there we go. Time dilation. Lock them all up. Okay, very good. And now we can put it on auto. Hi guys, I'm Mike and welcome back to another Raid Shadow Legends video. In today's video we are going to take a closer look at one of my favorite champions in the entire game, and this is Stag Knight. Stag Knight is one of the few champions inside Raid Shadow Legends that can fill the very important role of Decreased Defense champion very well. First we are going to take a look at his kit, and after that I will show you how I have built my Stag Knight to help me in a lot of areas in the game. He's just such a versatile champion that you can use him almost anywhere, and this is why I'm such a big fan of him. So let's go through his kit for a second. His A1 is actually very good. It attacks one enemy 2 times, which makes him very useful for a boss like Fire Knight to help take down the shield. And each hit has a 30% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. You can book this up to a 50% chance, and this is a debuff that can help you greatly against bosses that are vulnerable to this type of debuff, because it slows them down quite a lot, making your team go a lot more often. But even though his A1 is great, his A2 is even better. Let's take a look. His A2 is called Huntmaster and it attacks all enemies. When booked, it has a 95% chance of placing the large version of Decreased Defense and the large version of Decreased Attack for 2 turns on your enemies. This is a very valuable ability that you will need in practically any team. You will need a Decreased Defense champion in Arena, for example. You will need one in dungeons, you will need one in Doom Tower, you will need one on bosses. This is such a useful ability to have, and having a 95% chance of landing it actually makes it very reliable. And there is even a way to push this up to 100%, which I will show you in a little bit. And what makes this even more special is that there are just not a lot of champions inside this game that have a high chance of placing the large version of Decreased Defense on all enemies. So this is really special, and it makes Stag Knight a very useful champion in a lot of areas in the game. He also has a passive, and this is quite useful as well, because it provides an increased accuracy buff, which is really rare, on an ally for 1 turn each time that an ally has a debuff resisted by an enemy. This is a nice passive to have. The only downside to this is that an ally actually needs to fail placing a debuff, which is not something that you want, of course. But after that, they will have a 50% increased accuracy buff on them, giving them a better chance of landing the next debuff that they try to place. So this is actually quite nice. When looking at his base stats, something jumps out immediately, and that's his high HP. And because he has such a high base HP, he is also a prime candidate for something like a shield set, for example. Giving your Stag Knight a shield set will make him provide even more value to your team, because he will actually be able to give your team quite large shields because of this. So this is really nice. He's also very fast at 107, and his defense is also pretty decent. Because Stag Knight is so versatile, I would actually always recommend building this guy in a very versatile way, so that he will be well suited to take on a lot of content. Like bosses, for example, or Doom Tower waves, maybe even a couple Doom Tower bosses. I've used this guy on my unkillable clan boss team because I just didn't have any alternative for his decreased defense and decreased attack. And he was actually pretty good at that as well. So he's a very useful champion. Looking at his gear, there are a few things that I would prioritize when building a Stag Knight. I'm a big fan of putting him in a shield set, but if you don't, then HP will not be a high priority for you. The things that should be a high priority are of course accuracy, so he is able to land his debuffs, and also speed. because the faster he is, the more often he will be able to use his debuffs. So this is very important. Accuracy and speed are absolutely most important when building a Stag Knight. You can actually put a little bit of stats into his damage as well, because he is able to do quite a little bit of damage. He's not a nuker, but he can help your team a little bit there as well. And if you are using him in an area like Clan Boss, for example, then building his defense is absolutely very much important too. So it depends a little bit on where you are going to use this guy, but speed and accuracy are always very important. And if you put enough stats into those two, then he will be able to fit the role of decreased defense champion very nicely. Sets that would suit this guy very well are, for example, speed set, of course, perception, accuracy, but also, like I said, shield. I have him in a perception set right now to increase his accuracy and his speed, but I've also given him a shield set, so he will be able to give my team a shield for 30% of his total HP. So as you can see here, my Stag Knight is now at 60k HP, and this is because I really want him to have high HP for the shield set that he's carrying. He has almost 1400 attack, 1850 defense, 203 speed. I even built up his crit rate a little bit and his crit damage. And even though he is absolutely not a nuker, he does quite a little bit of damage if you build him like this, so he will actually be able to help your team with a little bit of damage as well. And he has 307 accuracy to make sure that he always lands his decreased defense and decreased attack debuff. And these are the masteries that I have given him. I went down the offense tree and the support tree, and the support tree was mainly to provide him with a little bit more accuracy. So we picked the 3 accuracy option at the beginning. We also went for Evil Eye, which decreases the target's turn meter when this champion hits them with the A1 for the first time. This is a really useful skill in a lot of areas. And I've also given him Sniper, which increases the chance of placing any debuffs from skills or artifacts by 5%. And this is where we get the extra 5% that we need to get his A2 to a 100% chance of landing. This is absolutely a very important mastery to have on your Stag Knight. And finally, Master Hexer has a chance of extending the duration of any debuff cast by this champion by 1 turn. This would mean that he has a 30% chance of landing a 3-turn decreased defense debuff. And since it's on a 3-turn cooldown, this would mean that it would be up the entire time. So that's great. I went down the offense tree to give him a little bit more damage and eventually end up at War Master, which was very useful when he was on my Clan Boss team, for example, because then he could proc War Master and do a lot more extra damage. This also works nicely on dungeon bosses or Doom Tower bosses, for example. So it's a very, very useful mastery, and I would recommend you guys going for this one. But I would always advise you guys not to just blindly copy any masteries. Just go down the tree yourself and try and find masteries that will fit your Stag Knight and the build that you made. Everyone uses different teams and everyone uses different compositions, and if you want him to fit another role, it would be better to take other masteries. So just take a look for yourself and be critical about the masteries that you will give your champion. But because action speaks louder than words, I will show you this guy in action. He is still part of my Spider 20 team, for example, and you will see just how useful he is in there. He's the fastest champion in this team, so he will place his debuffs before anyone else goes. I've actually set up the team so they will do everything they need to do on auto, so I will click that now. He will start off with his Huntmaster ability, decreasing the defense and attack of all the spiderlings and the big spider. So, he has landed it on everyone. Now we are going to freeze everyone up with Achak. And there he landed the decreased speed debuff on Spider as well, slowing him down further. And 1 minute 26, we have a dead spider. And as you can see, while he is not a really big damage dealer, he still did 410,000 damage because of his AoE, of course. Mordecai is the one doing the bulk of the damage because of his HP burn. But like you noticed, he's actually pretty useful here with his decreased attack and his decreased defense, because the decreased attack made the spiderlings do a lot less damage on my champions. So this is very, very nice. Also, the decreased speed debuff landed on the big spider, made the spider a lot slower, and this made sure that he did not get a turn. This is a really great dungeon to use Stag Knight in, because both his A2 with the decreased defense and decreased attack and the A1 with the decreased speed give you a lot of value against spider. Another dungeon where he is very useful is the Fire Knight, and this is because the 2 hits on his A1, which helps the team bring down the Fire Knight's shield a lot faster. So this is a great use for him as well. Also, his decreased defense and decreased attack will help you through the waves. So let's take a look at how this team works. This is not going to be the fastest team ever, but I think they will be able to get him down quite nicely. So let's go. So nice to know is that the Stag Knight is actually the right affinity for Fire Knight 20, because he's Spirit, of course, and Fire Knight 20 is Force. So this works nicely. Still stunning everyone up. So while this team is not going to win any speed contests, like you can see, they are quite capable of handling the waves. And this is also in part due to Stag Knight because of his decreased attack and decreased defense. Could have made killing the waves a lot faster using someone like Seer, of course. But I wanted to show you a team without someone like Seer for once. Okay, now we're at the boss. And now you will see where his A1 comes in handy. Of course he's going to start with his A2. That's always going to happen with RNG. Okay, the shield is down. Now let's see if we can keep the turn meter down. He also placed decreased speed on him now, which is great. And if Coldheart will get off one of her Heartseekers, then I don't think we will be seeing the shield come back up anymore. There go decreased attack and decreased defense from Stag Knight. Very good. And there comes Heartseeker. So this fight is practically over. So, no speed record whatsoever, but a very stable team with Stag Knight providing huge value with his debuffs and also helping out a lot on the final boss with his decreased speed debuff and his 2-hitter on the A1. So this is a really, really nice dungeon for him as well. For Dragon 20 he's the wrong affinity, but in Ice Golem's Peak 20 he's actually a very valuable team member as well. I will show you how that works out. So here we go again. Placing all the debuffs, very good. And as you can see, the entire team has been locked out by Syl and by Countess Lix here. But as we all know, it's the second wave that gives most people the most problems. But I think we should be fine here. Even though they are going to get a turn, it seems. Yeah, there comes the reflect damage. And this is what's a little bit different about Ice Golem's Peak. Slow and steady wins the race. It's a bit different than the other dungeons in that sense, that you do not need to be nuking all out straight from the start. Going a little bit slower actually helps, both on the second wave and on the final boss. So there we go, 1 minute 30 and we're at the boss. There come the debuffs, very good. Place them on everyone. And as you can see, also on the Ice Golem, the decreased speed debuff that he has on his A1 comes in handy again. And that was around 40k damage by Stag Knight on one of the ads, which is quite decent if you ask me. And slowly but surely we are taking down the boss without getting into any trouble. And this for me is the most important thing when building teams. You want them to have a 100% success rate. Especially if you are just going to let your team run auto battles all through the night. Speed is of no consequence to you. Just build a team that will be able to kill a boss 100% of the time. And then you will get the most out of your runs. Because as you can see, we are absolutely not breaking any speed records. But we are absolutely not going to die against this boss, whatever happens. Last couple of hits. Yeah, there we go. Stag Knight finished him off. That was nice. And as you can see here, against the Ice Golem, he did quite nicely on the damage. Because he out-damaged Countess Lix, Syl, Apothecary, and he was only out-damaged by Ignatius. So, pretty nice if you ask me. Regrettably today the faction for Stag Knight is not opened, but he's absolutely a beast in here as well. So if you have him, he will be invaluable for you in his crypt. And like I said, I had him on my unkillable clan boss team for a while. But now I no longer have him speed tuned, so I can't show you him in action. But he's pretty decent in there as well. Now I want to show you how he does in Doom Tower. And after that I'm going to show you one arena fight with him as well. So we're just gonna fight a random wave now. And let's see how this team will do. I've tried to make it not too overpowered. So I've put in a Kale and Apothecary. But I think they will do nicely. So there we go. We can put this on auto. Then Apothecary will speed everything up. And after that I think Stag Knight will go with his debuffs. So here we go. Oh, first Syl and then Stag Knight. Very good. Yeah, this is not going to be a problem at all. Again, I didn't want to show you Stag Knight in action with a Seer and Mausoleum Mage in there as well. Because then he just wouldn't get a chance to do anything almost. Because they would just nuke down the waves like crazy anyway. But this way you can see where his debuffs provide a lot of value. Because as you can see, his decreased attack and decreased defense both help with doing more damage on the enemies, as it does help us take less damage from them. So this is a really good ability to have in here as well. And the shield that he provides through his shield set helps your team survive when the opponent attacks as well. So this is absolutely great. Finally, I want to show you Stag Knight in an arena battle. I do not have him speed tuned at the moment, but I will try and fit him into my team. We'll just pick Deacon out of there and maybe put Stag Knight in there. Should work out just fine, because he will be going after Arbiter and then into Elhain, into Countess Lix. So let's just hope we won't get cut off by Lysandra here. But let's see what we can do against this team. Okay, we are going to go first. And then we are going to place an increase attack buff on all our champions. Very good. Okay, Stag Knight is actually going second. Very nice. Then we're going to do Huntmaster. Placing the debuffs. Yeah, was to be expected that he was weak affinity on the miscreated monster. So he did not place his debuffs on him. Then we are going to do Valley of Death with Elhain. And now let's hope Countess Lix can come next. Yeah, there we go. Time dilation. Lock them all up. Okay, very good. And now we can put it on auto. Pretty easy win. So I hope I gave you guys a good impression of Stag Knight and of how valuable he can be in many areas of the game. I'm really happy that I pulled this guy relatively early with this account, because he meant so much to me in so many parts of the game. I hope you guys are now able to build him out to be the awesome champion that I know he is. And if you liked the video, then please give it a thumbs up and maybe subscribe to the channel for more Raid Shadow Legends videos. I wish you all a very good day and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!